Hello, everyone, and welcome back inside the home office. I'm Craig D'Amico, and this is NEC Women's Basketball on the Run. It's the show that's just as addictive and thought-provoking as your daily Wordle puzzle. The road to the 2022 NEC Women's Basketball Championship is starting to come just a tad bit more into focus, as coming up this weekend, we will hit the halfway point of conference season. Now, coming up on today's show, we'll talk some more about week 4. We'll bring you our top 3 stars of the past week. We'll peek ahead to some of the big games coming up this week, including a big game on ESPNU. And we'll be joined by our special guest this week, FDU grad student Madison Stanley. But first, let's get right to the news. Here's our week 4 NEC Women's Basketball headlines. The FDU Knights remain atop the NEC standings following a week 4 Brooklyn sweep. The Knights took to the concrete jungle on Thursday for a big-time battle with the Terriers, and they came away with a 72-62 win. The Knights went into halftime on an 8-1 run over the final 4 minutes of the half to go into the break with a 7-point cushion. The Knights would then stretch their lead up to as many as 17 points in the fourth quarter. But the Terriers fought back and got within single digits a couple of times, but ultimately the Knights would hold on and prevail by 10. Madison Stanley recorded a career-high 25 points, and Anya Bell was absolutely awesome with 22, including 4 triples. Then on Sunday, the Knights won their 4th straight, 49-36 over LIU. Now, there were some shooting stretches in this game that weren't exactly pretty, but FDU's defense was the star, holding the Sharks to just 4 points on 2 for 15 shooting in the second quarter and 8 points on 3 for 14 shooting in the third. Stanley and Chloe Wilson were the lone Knights and the lone players overall to finish in double-figure scoring. So FDU, with the 2 wins this past weekend in Brooklyn, they are now 7-1 in league play, and they have assured that win or lose in their next outing Thursday at the Mount on ESPNU, they will be in sole possession of first place at the conference season's halfway point, 9 games down, 9 to go. On Sunday in Fairfield, the Pioneers and the Red Flash once again couldn't settle their issues in regulation, going to overtime for a 3rd straight meeting before the Flash pulled out their 5th straight win after an 0-3 conference start. With the Flash up 4 with 33 seconds left, Sonia Smith got a putback layup to pull SHU within 2. And then after 2 Jada DePaul missed free throws, Adrian Haygood tied it with just seconds to spare to send it into overtime. Then in OT, Jada DePaul put the finishing touches on the Pioneers, scoring the go-ahead for good bucket with just under a minute and a half to go, and then making some free throws to put SFU up by 3, 69-66. Now, Sacred Heart did have one last chance. Olivia Tucker, her try was well off the mark right at the end, allowing the Red Flash to escape Fairfield with the 3-point victory. DePaul recorded a double-double, 13 points, and get this, a career-high 23 rebounds. That's not a misprint. I didn't make a mistake. 23 rebounds. Whoa. Well, Jenna Mastalone led the Flash with 20 points, her 3rd 20-point effort in 7 conference games this year. Now, we'll have more on the Pioneers and the Flash and all their overtimes coming up later in the show. Speaking about Sacred Heart, the game before they played SFU, they hosted Mount St. Mary's at the Pitt Center, and they made some NEC history as well with the first ever all-female produced broadcast. Former Sacred Heart women's basketball standout Tykera Carter, she handled the play-by-play. Dominique Patrick was on color, and it was an incredible night. We look forward to welcoming Tykera Carter into the NEC broadcast team as she joins me for her debut on February the 19th for FDU and Bryant. And finally, we just have to show you this play. St. Francis, Brooklyn, and Bryant just passed 2 minutes gone by in the second quarter when Nev Dmitrievich reads this pass, tips it away, steals it, and drops a perfect behind-the-back dish to Kalia Edwards, who finishes with the layup. It's one of the prettiest plays you'll see all season. Nev to Kalia for the deuce Sunday in Brooklyn. So now let's take a look at where they stand. The FDU Knights have opened up a 2-game edge for the top spot in the NEC standings. Sitting at 7-1, the Knights have matched their mark through 8 games from the 1991-1992 season 30 years ago, when they also started 7-1 and ended up winning it all. Now, there are 3 really hot teams behind them tied for second. The Terriers have won 5 out of their last 6. The Mount has won their last 4, and the St. Francis Red Flash have won 5 in a row after an 0-3 start. Now, on the flip side, after a 4-0 start, Wagner has dropped 4 straight to slide back into a tie with Sacred Heart in 5th at 4 up and 4 down. Merrimack and Bryant, they are both tied, as are Central Connecticut State and LIU. Now, of course, bring on the asterisks. As a reminder, every team eligible has already clinched a spot in the 2022 NEC tournament. Time now for my 3 stars from week 4 of NEC play. Starting at number 3, it's Kendall Brzee from Mount St. Mary's. The reigning NEC Player of the Year lands as one of our top stars for the 2nd straight week. Brzee compiled 17 points in both of her outings this past weekend, filling up the stat sheet with 17 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, a block and a steal against Sacred Heart, and then 17 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, a block, 2 steals, and a partridge in a pear tree against Central Connecticut State. Brzee is averaging 20 points and close to 8 rebounds over the last 2 weeks, surpassing Central's Ashley Berube as the NEC's leading scorer. And speaking about scoring, Brzee enters this weekend just 49 points shy of reaching 1,000 for her collegiate career. At number 2, it's St. Francis grad senior Jenna Mastalone. She's playing the best ball of her career right now. She had a career night with 29 points and 4 threes just last week against Merrimack, and this weekend she kept it going on the road in the Nutmeg State. On Friday against Central, she shot 6 for 7 and recorded 19 points to go with 6 rebounds. Then on Sunday on ESPN3 against the Pioneers, Mastalone led all scorers with 20 points to help propel SFU to their 5th straight win in overtime over Sacred Heart. And for the 2nd straight week, a Knight star lands in the top spot. Madison Stanley, the Knights grad senior, came up big in Friday's battle for first place against the Terriers. She led all scorers with a new career high 25 points to go with 9 rebounds and 4 block shots. Then on Sunday, she led the Knights to a Brooklyn sweep, recording 21 points on 9 for 11 shooting and 7 rebounds in the win over LIU. Stanley is currently 6th in the league in scoring, 4th in rebounds, and she's under 100 points away from reaching the 1,000 point milestone herself. Madison Stanley, our week number 4 top star in NEC women's basketball. And joining us now here on NEC women's basketball on the run, she's our top star. She's the player of the week, and she's our special guest, grad senior for the first place Fairleigh Dickinson Knights. She's Madison Stanley. Maddie, thanks so much for taking the time to join us here today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, FDU is 7-1 right now in conference play, 2-game lead for first place in the standings. Just coming off some huge wins this past weekend in Brooklyn. What has been the team's success so far this year?
I think our success this year has been what it always has been. It's our philosophy. Our whole program is based on defense. And I know our whole coaching staff talks about it all the time, that when our defense is good, it brings so much energy that our offense will just come. And I think our defense has really been the key to our success this year.
Yeah, you mentioned for you personally, 500 rebounds this past weekend. You're approaching 1,000 points. You've been winning games. So coming back now for this 5th year, how exciting, how much fun has this been for you?
Oh, it's been great. I'm so happy that I got the opportunity to come back and to be able to compete with my team. We have such a special group of girls this year, and I'm just happy to be a part of it.
We talked a little bit about this when we last spoke at Media Day. Team 7-1, the one loss was to Bryant when there were many players that weren't there. Team was playing shorthanded, but that's kind of been how you've been like the last 2 years, playing shorthanded. There's been all these obstacles that pop up. So like mentally, how tough is that to stay focused and stay in it when there's all these obstacles popping up and you never know when they're going to pop up?
I think it's definitely difficult, but I think it's good in a sense because you play every game like it's your last, every practice like it's your last, because you never know when something like this could happen. So I think for us, it's just playing that next game like it's our last game, because you really never know when it could be your turn or the other team's turn to like deal with COVID or any of these things.
Hey, you mentioned that the team kind of gelling together. You've been a part of this now for 5 years. You've seen the program kind of built from the bottom up. You've been a part of the foundation. So what has this journey been like to come all this way with the group of girls you have in the locker room?
Oh, it's been great. I mean, ever since Coach Ange and our coaching staff has gotten here, it's been a big 180. And I think it's great just to see how our program has grown. I mean, throughout my 5 years here, we've gotten so much better each year, and it's just so great to be a part of, and it's just awesome.
Now, Thursday night on ESPNU, the Knights will be in Emmitsburg to meet the Mount. Now, technically, FDU already has a victory over Mount, but that was forfeit in the first conference game. I'm sure they're not too happy about that. So what are going to be some keys for you guys coming up on Thursday night when you actually get to play it on the court?
I think just sticking to what we know best, which is defense. Our defense is what puts us in these games and makes us successful. So I think just doing what we do best, which is defense, and our offense will come. And Coach Ange says this all the time. With defense, especially with us, it really brings so much energy and so much excitement when we get stops on defense. And that's what makes us good on offense as well.
All right, it's time now for Get to Know. We have some 5 quick questions for Madison Stanley, and you just give us the first thing that comes to mind, okay?
Okay.
All right, here we go. What's your favorite song that you've been listening to recently?
Friday by the Nightcrawlers.
Okay. What's one thing that you just can't live without?
My family.
Good answer. What's a pregame superstition?
I always drink a Celsius, and our whole team, we always listen to Friday before the game. It gets us
If we took a survey of your teammates, what's a trait or an adjective or a word that you think that they might use to describe you?
I think my team would describe me probably as goofy.
Okay. Now I'm going to throw a bonus one in here because you're from Woodbridge, New Jersey. You're a Jersey girl. So Taylor ham or pork roll? How do you describe it?
I'd say Taylor ham.
Okay. And finally, we have a would you rather. Would you rather own a beach house down at the Jersey Shore, or would you rather own a home that overlooks the Hudson with the beautiful view of New York City?
Definitely Jersey Shore.
All right, there we go. Madison, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us, and best of luck coming up against the Mount on Thursday.
Thank you so much.
All right, that's Madison Stanley here on NEC Women's Basketball on the Run. Stats amazing. And today we are talking about overtime, in particular Sunday's ESPN3 overtime affair between Sacred Heart and St. Francis U in Fairfield. Now, after both of their games went into overtime last year in 2021, they once again couldn't settle it in regulation in their first meeting in 2022. Now, we actually went back and looked, and it is believed that this is either the first time that this is a never ever, or at the very least, it's the first time in a very long time that 2 opponents have played in 3 consecutive games against each other, and all 3 games went into overtime. The closest examples we could find in league history, at least in recent league history, were St. Francis, Brooklyn, and Central Connecticut State. They played a double overtime NEC tournament semifinal in 2015. And then their first meeting of 2016 went into overtime. So that was 2 in a row. And then Mount and Bryant had a stretch between 2013 and 2015 when they played 3 overtime games in a 5-game span. It was overtime, regulation, overtime, regulation, overtime. But we haven't been able to locate or find in the record books dating back since the beginning 3 straight games between the same 2 teams going to overtime. Now, can St. Francis and Sacred Heart continue this run and go into bonus basketball for a 4th straight time, which would definitely have to be some sort of record, by the way? I sure hope so, because I'll be there to call it. The rematch Saturday, February 26th in Loretto, 4 p.m., ESPN3. 3 overtimes in a row by the same 2 teams. Stats amazing. And now let's take a look at our week 5 slate, beginning with action on Thursday night. And the headliner, it's 5 p.m. ESPNU. Fairleigh Dickinson, first place against the reigning tournament champions from Mount St. Mary's. Now, this is a rematch from the last 2 years in the NEC tournament semifinals. 2 years ago, the game didn't even get to be played. Last year, FDU went in shorthanded. They gave it a fight, but ultimately they were turned aside. And earlier this season, in their first conference meeting in the Garden State, didn't happen due to forfeit. And you can imagine Mount probably not too happy about that. Kendall, Brzee, Madison Stanley, they're playing their best ball this season right now, and so are their teams. Both teams are coming in having won their last 4 in a row. Now, this is an historic rivalry in the NEC. I'm actually working on a story right now recognizing the 30-year anniversary of the 1992 FDU championship team. And I had a chance recently to talk to Mount and NEC Hall of Famer Vanessa Blair and FDU Hall of Famers Felicia Griffin and Megan Culkin. And they all have such fond memories of those FDU Mount St. Mary's battles from the early 90s. And that's exactly how they all described it, a battle, especially the 2 times that these 2 programs met in the final in 1990 and 1992. Obviously, FDU has more fonder memories of those than the Mount does, but it's interesting that now their paths having crossed here in the present, in the last 2 years in the tournament, and now once again here this year, it's almost like this rivalry is being rekindled 30 years later, and it's awesome to see. Now, on one hand, FDU, we kind of need them to win to break this NEC on the run curse, because so far, if you've been paying attention, each guest that we've had come on to our show has lost their next game. Z Thibault came on week 1, Wagner loses. Then it was Isabella Posset, St. Francis Brooklyn loses. So we kind of need FDU to win, or no one will ever want to come on our show ever again. But then on the other hand, it's kind of also a must win for Mount too, because even though we're at the halfway point, if they go 3 games back out of first place, having lost both games head to head against the top team, they could very well see their aspirations of reclaiming the regular season crown completely fade away. So plenty at stake in this game for us, for the teams. It's the season's halfway point. It's going down Thursday night on ESPNU. Now, in other action, Wagner will try to end their slide against the hottest team in the league right now, St. Francis, who won their last 5 in a row. And then on Saturday, Kalia Edwards back to her old stomping grounds atop Grimes Hill, St. Francis Brooklyn taking on Wagner, and SFU taking on Mount, highlighting the Saturday action. Also, keep in mind, Bryant and LIU, that should be an interesting one too. LIU swept Bryant last year in the final series of the regular season. So that'll do it for this week's edition of NEC Women's Basketball on the Run. I'm Craig D'Amico. Next week, we will officially be on the back end of the conference schedule, and we'll be playing February basketball. Can't wait. Enjoy the games, everyone, and we will see you, as always, right back here next week on NEC Women's Basketball on the Run.